What's up, everybody? It's your favorite midnight train to Georgia's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the final train bot from Moon Studios, which we think is Zeta, just rebranded at this point. And I will have you know that you've probably seen the combine mode by now, so you kind of know if I think the set is worth it overall. That is, unless scheduling conflicts prevented that from happening, and you're seeing this first. We'll see how it goes. We're going to take a look at this guy, but of course, first, we're going to take a look at accessories. He comes with a gun, same as the rest. It's sculpted well enough. We have some red metallic paint, which helps it a lot too. The whole thing has a metallic paint, but the red really pops on it. Decent enough sculpt. He will hold it, but it is not the best connection that the world has ever seen. But he can hold it. The gun can also go into the top of the train mode here. He comes with another one of those wing pieces for the combine mode. Of course, we have the peg here that will peg into any 5mm spot. And this will open, and then you can use this in a number of different ways. It's painted beautifully, sculpted beautifully, and the red accents really pop. If you remove this piece here, and it's really stuck in there, God bless it. So theoretically, you would just remove this piece here, but I can't get it out, and in doing so, I've managed to scratch the paint, which is a bummer. But theoretically, you would get that out and then plug this in. But that's definitely one demerit so far, am I right? You can kind of fit this in there as well. It doesn't really want to stay because of these bump out pieces here. I think it's meant to go up top a little bit, but I just can't get that piece out at all. And of course, he comes with another train connector piece. They interlock the same as the other ones with magnets and pegs, and then clip on to the front and back of the trains. And that can clip in to the front here, and then obviously into the back as well. But it starts making my flaps flip up. So let's talk about the figure. And the head sculpt, I just want to say I love it. I don't know if it's accurate or not. I don't really know too much about this stuff, but I think it has a ton of character in it, and I think it looks cool, and it looks dynamic, and it looks interesting and unique. I love the horns. I love everything. Looks great. Paint, we have the full red paint, orange paint rather, the silver face, the metallic blue visor. Everything is painted per usual, head to toe. Unfortunately, the shoulders suffer the same issues as Cool Peak, I think that was his name, where the joint is actually here, but this flap always wants to come untabbed. In fact, it doesn't really like to get tabbed in the first place, and then easily comes untabbed. You get a 360 around. Fully painted with some orange accents, which look great. You have a bicep silhouette on the foothills of the Himalayas. Shout out to the Nerve Rage listeners. You have a elbow bend that gets you deeper than 90 degrees, which is nice. We have the gray accents down the arm, which is a nice touch because you wouldn't really need it, but it's a nice touch. You get a little bit of a wrist hinge in and out, plus you get the swivel. The fingers are fully articulated with a ball peg at the base knuckle and then a secondary knuckle. Same for the thumb. You have a ball peg at the base knuckle with a secondary hinge, and then I believe, no, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and then the nice train accents come through with the orange and such. We'll talk a little bit more about that in train mode, but as you can see, it looks nice, and it's sharp and clean. And then we have this metallic red on his stomach here. It's actually the opposite abdomen from the other guy. They sculpted both sides, so you have a little bit of a different, unique look. I think that's very smart. Dig it an awful lot. And we have the two shades of gray, a silver actually, and then a gray here. Gray and black for the pelvis. You have a waist swivel. You have these hip skirts. They get up and out of the way for the full Van Damme. You have these hip skirts and these hip skirts, which get up and out of the way for a ratcheted full Monty. I'll go ahead and back the camera out of taste. Thigh swivel around the universal. That works nice. And then we have a single knee bend for 90 degrees. Die-cast thighs, once again, with some nice sculpt work in there. We talked about the knees. Once again, the train accents look great. We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to train mode. The ankles, they drop down. You can get an ankle tilt up, an ankle tilt down, and a pretty extreme rocker with the black accents on the toe. And there he is from the back with the little hand hidden up in there. Little hidden hand, you know what I mean? Yeah, looks good. Size comparison wise, there he is with a couple other contemporaries. We have the Fans Toys Silverbolt. We have the Unique Toys Swindle, Fans Toys Limbot. So pretty much what we've come to expect. He's the same size as the other one, so we're not going to take too long with this, but it's about what we've come to expect. But I did want to show him next to Cerebus because I think these guys did spend a little bit of time together in the cartoon, and I'll try to get some sort of flat piece of foam here to show you, like, slightly taller than Cerebros. I think I'm thinking about something else. Cerebros, sorry. So, I thought that might be of interest as well. The flap flipping functions begin, because I couldn't think of an F word that is begin or starts. Let's do it a little differently than last. Obviously, it's a lot of the same transformation. So just ball up the wrists, get them as tight as you can, and we're going to flip them inside. And then we're going to close that flap. I already flipped the hand on this one, so we're going to open that up, flip that hand in, and then we're going to flip that flap. We can open up the chest. We're going to flip these flaps. We're going to try to flip these flaps. And we have to bring this neck hinge up and over, and then we can close this back up and then spin our shoulder pauldrons, right? Spin those around, and then we can flip this, and these will line up. You can just kind of have them ready. And then on the shoulder, we need to flip this so that the orange lines up, and we need to flip that little piece there. We'll do the same on this side. Flip, 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 and flip. All right, now we're going to flip this flap. It's another kind of tricky one to get to. And we'll do the same thing here. There we go. That comes up and over. You can sort of bring all this out and about to give yourself some room. These flaps here flip, and then you can bring the shoulders up and over. If you align them properly, that is. And once you've done that, take the bicep, I'll move it up for a bit for you. Spin that so it's in line. Rock that down. And that will peg in easy, hopefully. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Once again, just make sure that your flaps have flipped properly and haven't flipped back down. And this one actually doesn't want to. There it is, straighten all the way. I'll deal with that later. And spin this so that it's properly aligned, and that tabs in. And then for these, same thing like the other one. There's these little flimsy kind of panels. Just do the best you can to tab them in properly. All right. It's going to be a problem. Take your backpack, unfurl these two tabs here. They come up and over, and I got that little issue going on that I'm going to have to fix. This comes up, and you can tab all this. Obviously that one's giving me a hard time. Bring this piece up and over. There's a tab, where is it? Here. That'll tab into there. And then you can flip the wheels up. And then there's the little guard pieces that prevent it from flipping down, that are always toleranced poorly. They're at opposite ends of one another. So there's one here. Oh, there we go. And one on this side. there's that. And this, like I said in the last one, don't worry too much about this because you got a lot of work to do before you can get there anyway. This comes up and over. This bit kind of sits along, and you have two tabs with two corresponding holes that's going to go into, but I got a bit of an alignment issue that I'm going to have to work out before we move forward. So I'll go ahead and clean that up, and we'll get back to it. It's just something's a little wonky donkey right there. Drag this foot out. You have to flip this toe in, but in order to do so, you really need to make all the space you can by flipping out these panels here. And flip the toe in so that sits nice and flush, which it doesn't really sit all that flush for me, but hopefully it'll work itself out. You can leave that alone for a minute. And let's go ahead and open this stuff up. So once again, it's just a ton of stuff that you have to open up. So we're going to open all of this, get that out of the way, get this out of the way. You got one flap in here. You can release this knee joint. You got to get this panel out here. Oh man. There. Now you should be able to give yourself enough wiggle room to get that panel out. You got to bend plastic against plastic a little bit right there. I'm not a huge fan of that, but flip this up, and then you should be able to combiner wars the leg down. After you've done so, this comes around and sits right back down where you had it, and this is the only piece that you kind of have to mess with. And you just have to get it where this is going to sit basically in this cavity, but you're working against two hinges. Just use this part as leverage to kind of line it up, and then you can sit it flat. And I think you can get flatter. Sit up a little bit like that. We'll bring this around. I'm not sure if I had that 100% right, but we'll sort it out as we get a little closer. That forms that. We'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So foot down, open up your panels here, rotate on that black hinge, flip the toe in. Once again, it's a little off. You see that? It's a little troubling. Let's see. Okay, flip up your... Let's just get some of this out of the way. Flip this up and over. Flip this up and over to make as much space as you can. We have to free up this gray piece. And it has to hinge all the way up. And we have to flip this panel up, and releasing that gray piece will give you just the little extra wiggle room that you need to get it. At which point you can combiner wars the leg. As you do so, bring this piece back up, flip this the best you can where it will lay kind of alongside of it, and bring your foot around and peg it in. All right, so then we're going to combine this, pegging those together. We're also going to interlock our wheels. Which is eating me up. I might have to get that off camera. Let's see, flip in our flaps here and take this door. You can fold that down, untab that, bring that around. Make sure that that tabs in properly. Same on this side. Untab, flip down. Make sure all of this tabs in properly. And then we'll go to the top. We'll make sure that this is interlocked. We'll bring this down and tab that in the best we can. Come on. This, I feel like, is when, like, people say I don't really transform things, I just bend them to my will. I kind of feel like I'm doing that right now. But that's got to go underneath and then peg in, and it's just giving me a ton of grief. So I'll work on this and we'll pick back up and hopefully have some sort of completed vision, but you get the general idea, and I've shown it to you once before. You're lucky you got it that time. Like, it's just, just eating me up. And there it is. And I don't know. This, to me, is a little troublesome. I don't know if I didn't do it right, but it does stick out. It's like the planes aren't quite right for the... But otherwise, I think it works pretty well. The orange stripe is great. Rolls like a champ. All of the kind of deco and stuff comes through. The sculpt work is fantastic. I really enjoy these trains, to be quite honest. I don't really have a whole lot negative to say about it. I love all of the window sculpt. Like, I love all of it. Like, it looks so good to me. And they all have. And there he is next to Tiger Tracks. Let's not dilly-dally, shall we? All right, let's go. So we're going to take our hand and pull that straight out. We're going to unlock this front section. We're going to push these little pieces in there. We're going to collapse our safeties, which are the death of me. I'm glad I don't have to do that ever again. Down on this side as well. And collapse our wheels. We could take this, spin this around, and that will close back into there. What can we do next? Open this up. You can take these two pieces, rock that over, untab them. I'm going to keep these tabbed in though. And just rock them back on top of one another. They'll tab back in. And then you can take your little silver piece and rock that back over. And I just gotta fix that flap. Let's see what else we can do. All right, so this has a little panel once again. That flips over. And then you take your hand. It's spring-loaded. So you have a little locking mechanism here. Flip that up and out of the way. Do your best to kind of insert this into that space. And once you have it, you have it. And I know that sounds stupid, but it'll make a little bit more sense when you have yours in hand. And clip them over. Make sure you get enough space so that you can then bring your locking mechanism back down and secure it. At which point you can bring this back up and bring this back over, and that will lock it back in again using the two pegs that we used initially for train mode. Once again, just like the other ones, you want to untab these side walls, flip them around, and you can flip that back over on both sides. We're gonna open up these hip skirts here and flip those up, and we're gonna separate all this, all that hard work. And I really don't know how you would do this without a spudger. And this is actually that part is especially challenging because it has the like these two interlocking pieces, but it also has pieces that kind of grip underneath. You can flip those over. Hopefully that'll give us good grief. All right. Once again, we got a ton of work to do. So we're gonna open up the foot. We're gonna swing it down. We're going to rotate this toe out, which once again, easy for me to say. There we go. And we can collapse all of this back, I believe. All right. Then we want the main goal here is to flip this bar here inside. Now, in order to do so, we just need to undo everything that we've done before so that we can extend this, flip that in. You can bend now at the knee if you want, rotate that back so that that sits in back where it was, but now the knee is bent. And then we have to get some of this cleaned up. But before you do, to make sure that it's all lined up, there's a little black square here. If you line it up just right, you'll be able to push it in, and that will lock in to the green leg, which I missed the last time, so there we go. All right, and now we need to just sort this so that that will sit inside of our cavity there. This comes then back down and around and sits in. And then we have this piece which comes up times 2. I always have it. There we go. Swing it so that you can lock it back in. Take your final piece here, swing that out, collapse that down. And now we just have to do that one more again. So, swing the foot out, swing that down. We have to get the toe out here. Which is a little challenging. Get that out and collapse all of this. On this side, we open up all of our components, swing them out so that we can swing the leg out. At which point, we got to do two things. We got to flip that bar in, and we got to bend the leg 90 degrees, and then combiner wars the leg back in. How do we know we have it lined up properly? Well, we'll know when we do it right, for one. But for two, when this channel there can receive that little flap there from the inside of the leg. Then we just have to orient our tracks again so that they sit nicely inside that cavity. Bring our foot down and lock that in. We're almost there, ladies and gents. We'll bring this up. We'll extend that, swing it, and lastly, take this piece, swing it out, swing it down, and then we can combine it, I believe. Everything has to peg together. Nice and securely. I'll clean it up, we'll take a look at it. And there it is. Pretty impressive. You know, once again, you have to kind of swivel it around and stuff to kind of get it oriented properly, but that's pretty intuitive. Very clean. Nice elbows. It's heavy, so I'm a little concerned about that. But, oh man, it does a really phenomenal job, I think, of kind of being what it's supposed to be. I'm very anxious to put this guy together so that we can talk a bit more about him, but my only concern is they are heavy. And we don't have the parts forming to kind of help us, so hopefully it works out. Final thoughts. Well, final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives. The most glaring for me is that one piece that feels like it should be able to be removable from the top of the train to plug in the kind of wings or gun. I'm not sure if it's the same as the other train. I may be totally off on that, but it seems like it should be, and I damaged the paint in the process of doing it. That's kind of a bummer for me. So unless you really, really, really want wings on your train, I advise you leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Other than that, my biggest issue, much like the other guy, is the tolerances. Some joints are just so tight, and unfortunately an awful lot of flaps have to flip on this guy. And in order for those flaps to flip properly, a lot of tolerances work against you to have any sort of an enjoyable time for a transformation that actually is relatively enjoyable. It would only be more so if they actually had it able to kind of move smoothly and properly. Otherwise, you know, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's negatively anyway. I will say that the gun doesn't fit in the hand properly, and of course it has those flaps on the shoulders that don't secure to the torso, but it's pretty much like, this is pretty much the same deal as the last one, right? So there's no reason to kind of harp on it. The expectation should pretty much be the same, and if they are for you, you probably will be happy enough. Positives also pretty much remain the same. It's sculpted nicely. It's obviously a different take on the character, but it is a beautiful sculpt nonetheless, and very clean. Cleaner than the actual designs, if you ask me. The transformation is actually very interesting and fun, much like its predecessor, but unfortunately is held back by those tolerances. Painted from head to toe, unfortunately the paint application isn't the best, as it does have a tendency to get scuffed, so just use caution as you move through yours. The materials feel good. The ratchets are strong. I love the different modes. Everything kind of works about this guy, you know, with the exception of those tolerances and then a couple of the little nitpicks here and there. I'm anxious to get this guy combined. You may have already seen the combined video, but I haven't. So let's go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.